Hello everyone, in this week's video, we're going to talk about Corinne's Chinese language journey.
So for those of you who are new to the channel, we've been in Taiwan for 7-8 months now, and I've been on my gap year before college during this time. And one of my biggest goals during this gap year has been improving my Chinese language proficiency.
Corinne is considered a heritage language learner. And in her case, that just means she grew up in the United States where the dominant language is English, but she has somebody at home who speaks the heritage language, which in this case, Chinese. Oh, and the person speaking that language to her is me.
So given this Chinese learning background, until we came to Taiwan, my Chinese language ability has been pretty limited. I've mostly spoken in domestic situations and with one person, my mother. So our conversations are usually something like,
Did you eat? Are you hungry? What do you want for dinner? Don't forget to put on a jacket. As a language professional, to improve one's language proficiency just means that she needs to be able to argue and converse about different abstract ideas with different people in different settings.
To that end, this year I've been trying to speak with lots of different people about ideas that are a bit more sophisticated, perhaps, than the ones that I've spoken about before. So whether that's talking about politics, talking about climate change, or expressing my own feelings in a more nuanced way. I've been trying to expand my vocabulary and also expand my use of certain grammar structures so that I can talk about these things and not fall behind or speak inefficiently. So one way that I've been doing that here in Taiwan is I've attended a few different, I guess they count as youth forums, so just talking with people my age. I've also been trying to talk to people in my life, whether that's my mother's friends or my friends.
How about the classes you're auditing?
So I audited a few classes last semester, and although they were math and social work classes, I think I also learned a lot of Chinese language.
If you're in a similar situation, working in service industry might be a really great way to improve your language too. By waiting the table or being a barista, you're forced to be able to think on your feet, which really is another benchmark for assessing one's language proficiency.
Other than spontaneity, something else you might learn more about in a service job than in regular conversation or academic pursuits would be cultural competency. So, want to tell them?
Very good. So cultural competency is when you're learning a language, you know whom to say what to, when, and where.
So for example, here in Taiwan, a waiter, instead of saying something like 我要帮你收盘子, which would mean I'm going to take away your plates.
Clear your plates.
Clear your plates. The waiter might say 帮你整理一下, which means I'll help you tidy up a bit. And although these really mean the same thing, you really only hear waiters say 帮你整理一下. No one says 我要帮你收盘子. It would be weird, even though it's grammatically fine and literally correct. All that said, I think for most people, this cultural competency stuff comes after just learning the basics of the language and how to convey meaning with language, right? You want to get your definitions down before you move on to the social connotations. For me, when I'm talking with someone about something, sometimes I have to circumlocute.
Oh, very good again. Okay, so the definition of circumlocution is that when you don't know a word, you need to be able to talk around it, the circum part, right?
So perhaps instead of saying fruit, you can say foods like apples, oranges, and bananas. Most people will know, you mean to say fruit. Anyway, so I might circumlocute, or I might use less efficient grammar structures to convey a meaning. But what I found is if I'm in a conversation and I want to use a grammar structure
or a
vocabulary word multiple times, if I can get my meaning across, then I can ask my conversation partner, how would I say this more efficiently?
Other than speaking, there's also the reading and writing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this year I've been trying to improve my reading and writing a couple ways. I mainly use flashcards, actually. I used a digital flashcard system that uses spaced repetition. Comment if you want to know more about it. We won't get into that. So I've studied handwriting 1,000 characters, and I also study recognizing or reading characters for vocab words that I want to know. Knowing how to handwrite those 1,000 characters has been very helpful for me in terms of getting familiar with the different parts of the characters, which in turn helps with being able to very quickly, upon just seeing a character for the first time,
being able to guess
the meaning or remember how to write it or guess how to say it.
Being in Taiwan this year is really helpful too, because the minute you step out, you're seeing Chinese characters everywhere.
It's like a video game.
Oh, nice.
So I did talk about that.
But you learn reading and writing in Chinese school, right? Would you like to talk about your experience with Chinese school?
I'm talking about reading and writing as if it's a totally new thing, and in a way it was, but I had previously studied reading and writing Chinese and Chinese characters in Chinese school. For those of you who don't know how Chinese school works, it's like a weekly school that you go to for a couple of hours. For us, it's on Sunday morning. She was a teacher there. I was a student there until maybe 2 years ago.
For you.
Yeah, for me. And then since then, I've mostly just helped out with Chinese school activities. I actually forgot a lot of the language that I learned in Chinese school, but I think Chinese school is really helpful for building a community and also for cultural competency. Being around ethnically and culturally Chinese people helped me learn a lot about Chinese culture.
And culture, not in the way that we think about, calligraphy, Chinese New Year making dumplings, playing Chinese yo-yo.
That too. We learned about that too in culture class.
Yeah, cultural competency is more about what to say to whom, when, and where.
So you learned both of these cultures in Chinese school. So obviously nobody's going to learn a language just by attending class for 2 hours a week, but Chinese school is really great if you're trying to learn the Chinese language on your own. It really enhances your ability to, like I said, like recognizing those different parts of characters or getting a more intuitive sense of what's going on with the language. It can really help just because it gives you more exposure and perhaps a more formal approach to the language than you might get in just talking to your parents.
So you're saying that it gives you structure, but you need to put in the work. It's sort of like going to piano lessons, right? So if you don't ever practice outside of your lesson, you're never going to learn to play the song.
But if you are someone who's trying to learn piano lessons can give you a structure and a more formal approach, a guide in your learning.
Between Chinese school and putting in time for your study of the language, it's eating up a lot of your time.
Yeah, obviously this is all a big time commitment. And you might be wondering, especially if you're a heritage learner, where you already kind of know the language and you feel like, you're not going to get that much credit for knowing it anyway. You might be wondering, is it even worth it? And obviously that's everyone's personal choice, right? For me, I chose to learn Chinese because, first of all, it's spoken by a lot of people in the world. It's a very useful language in the current world. But also, for me personally, as a heritage learner, I have some family members who either don't speak English or just don't like speaking English as much. I know, and so speaking Chinese...
Oh, she does like speaking English.
Not with me.
Okay.
Everyone likes to assert their dominance in their first language. Secret rule, okay? Speak your dominant language when you're fighting. Anyway, Chinese for me is not only about learning a world language, it's also about communicating with my family.
It really serves as a bridge between the generations, and it's important for us to actually know the best tool for us to communicate with those we love.
Yep. Anyway, I hope if any of you guys are heritage learners in Chinese or some other language, you can somehow benefit from this video. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. See you!
See you next week
For a fun video about a fun historical site.